For many years now, they had been apparently sending their compatriots over here in order to expand their territory. Insectoids like army wasps were apparently part of that effort. Of course, the full tale is a bit more complex than that. There are some races who are not so willing to bend to our desires. The leader of this offshoot band was Razzle, whom Shion's party defeated. He proved that the aggressors were far from a monolith, but then Shion recalled something else. Didn't Rimura pick up a pedo in Sijin while they were on the run from someone else? I think this Minaza is my enemy after all. She didn't have any real solid basis for this, but Shion made that call anyway. She trusted her intuition, and she was proud of the fact that it had never failed her in cases like these. And she was right, too. It was no coincidence, either. Having died and been revived once, Shion was now deeply connected to Rimura and now Seal, his newfound skill. His computational skills were now interfacing with the fragmentary information Shion had obtained so far, giving her deep insight into the truth. So you're my enemy, basically. Ha ha ha. A bit late for that, isn't it? And thanks to all the time you've wasted talking to me, I can now bring my lovely children back to life again. The moment she shouted it, Minaza's lower body swelled up. Several mouths grew out from it, usually hidden by the skirt of her military uniform, and each one of those mouths was now producing ominous-looking eggs at the same time. Ha 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 ha. You can act as strong as you like, but fighting all my children has thoroughly exhausted you. If you think you can win against these numbers. Minaza stopped in the middle of her bragging. It was obvious why. A single flash from Shion's Gariki Meru version 2 snuffed out the lives of so many insectors as soon as they began. No. My children were supposed to have been reborn as warriors with overwhelming power, with the help of His Majesty. Minaza's power was similar to a pedo's motherly queen in many respects. Termed voracious resurrection, it allowed her to regenerate her children by consuming their corpses over and over again. Combined with the ultimate enchantment alternative from Ludor, it was further powered up, the death and rebirth cycle now taking much less time. The countless insectoids she was birthing were just as formidable for Shion as Minaza thought they were. Each one had abilities equivalent to a high-level magic born, and a few among them could even pass for pre-awakened demon lords. But although it was a tough fight, Shion had dispatched all of them. And now that she did, Minaza would never get another whack at it. Optimal action, part of her unique master chef skill, had no trouble defeating the reborn insectors in an instant. Minaza was shocked. This high-speed childbirth process was usually enough to exhaust opponents by itself. She didn't have to lift a finger. It was a proven strategy for her, so facing a wild card like Shion confused her. But she wasn't a queen for no reason. She stood up, indignant, and it was clear she wouldn't make the same mistake again. You will pay for that. My children, lend your strength to your queen mother. Perfect. Let's see what you've got. Taking her children's power as her own, Minaza shifted into battle form. Shion, Gariki Meru version 2 at the ready, joyfully engaged her, and so the long battle began. The fight seesawed back and forth. Minaza's attack could wound Shion, but ultra-speed regeneration instantly healed her. By the same token, none of Shion's attacks could so much as scratch Minaza's exoskeleton. She was protected with an ultimate enchantment incorporating legend-class armor, and even god-class gear would have trouble against it. Minaza's speed did surpass Shion's, but Shion had more muscle. Minaza had the upper hand in defense, although Shion was much more adept at healing. Ugh. This again. You insects are such a handful. So tough. Shion was trying her best to crack through Minaza's exoskeleton, no matter how small the fissure. Once she did, Master Chef would take care of the rest, and Minaza wanted to avoid that at all costs. She hadn't underestimated Shion, but she was proving far more obstinate than previously thought. To be honest, she felt threatened. I can't believe it. Even in this form, she's fighting so evenly with me. Minaza could see Shion's gigantic magic heal count well enough, but if that was all she boasted, it didn't explain why she was having such a hard time. Shion was a handful because despite her seemingly slipshod style, she was still pretty handy with a sword. Not as good as Benimaru, but her instructor Hakuro fully attested to her skills. That made her a master of the blade, and between that and her brute strength, this was turning into a nightmarish marathon for Minaza. But Shion wasn't enjoying this much. She wanted to take down Minaza at once and move on, but she was proving stronger than she seemed. She truly is a warrior among the Empire's upper echelons, no doubt. Just as Sir Rimura said, I cannot let my guard down around her. Perhaps she could have considered that before diving in. But Shion was never one to think about things too deeply. Only now did she begin to wonder about how she was going to defeat this adversary. It was beyond too late for that, but at least she realized now that she needed to use her head a bit. But that alone wasn't going to suddenly spark a brilliant idea in her mind. It wouldn't, but Shion had Seal on her side. You possess great power. It took me a while to choose the best species among all the possibilities, but I have made my decision. The one best suited for you is. Hearing this voice made Shion remember something. She seemed to recall Rimuru asking her a whole bunch of questions when he endowed her with his evolutionary reward. Shion didn't give much consideration to her answers, just telling Rimuru that she'd accept whatever he provided, but in the end, nothing new did ever happen to her body. But even if the rest of her friends evolved, Shion didn't mind much. Benimaru had gone from an Oni to a Battlesoul Ogre, giving him powers equivalent to a true god ogre, but Shion was still a plain old Oni. She didn't mind this because, in her mind, she was already decently strong enough. This alone, however, would not give her victory over Minaza. It was thus natural that Shion would seek more, and in response to that, the soul corridor was opened up. Battlesoul Ogre. It is a high-level chaos elemental, but one that boasts unparalleled material strength. Now, examining your skills. I'll leave that to you, thought Shion, throwing the ball in Seal's direction entirely. Then she refocused on Minaza. She was copying a bit of an attitude right now, but even so, she thought the voice sounded a little happy. It might have just been her imagination, but more importantly, real changes were taking place. Well, what are you? That surging aura of yours. Were you just toying with me up until now? Her spirit was now surpassing her body. As the voice suggested, the awakening of her new species was now in progress. Seal managed the assorted evolutionary possibilities, selecting the most suitable ones as it saw fit. Thus Shion was evolved into a Battlesoul Ogre, an uncommon but powerful chaos elemental, and, since it was equipped with infinite regeneration, it was indestructible, as long as any magicules remained. The attacks from this body caused not only physical damage, but also destruction on the spiritual level. And while this was a spiritual life form with no elemental weaknesses, it held a decisive advantage over all other elements. In a way, Shion had evolved into something that could be called the natural enemy of spiritual life forms. The evolution also remade her body, optimizing it to be more specialized for combat. Shion could mostly pick up on this by instinct. She felt refreshed, invigorated, as if stretching out under a clear blue sky. She readied Gariki Mare version 2. I've kept you waiting, haven't I? But my time with you has come to an end. She spoke to Minaza with the utmost politeness. Don't you give me that. You might have been hiding your power, but I have revealed my true form to you as well. Just as she said, Minaza had changed even further from before. It meant shaving time off her own lifespan, but still she yearned for even more offensive force as she tried to fight off Shion. So the battle began. Those who try to take away our safe haven will writhe in pain before dying. The ultimate enchantment alternative is released in its full force. Now, come to me. Feed upon my flesh, and use your instincts to kill. Chaotic fate. And was over in an instant. The evil, forbidden final attack that Minaza was about to trigger was shattered by Shion's sword before she could fully reveal it. Before Shion now was a dismembered pile of flesh, broken into innumerable pieces. You're both too loud and talk for too long. Wah. What did you? One of the chunks of flesh lying around was Minaza's head, or, to be exact, a bit less than half of it. She grew flustered, realizing unavoidable death was coming soon, but unable to accept the reality. Shion looked coldly down at her. Would you like me to help you along? As an opponent, Shion was the worst possible match for Minaza. Before evolving into a Battlesoul Ogre, they were evenly matched, given the right ultimate skills, but, given Shion's lack of ultimate skills, the fact they were still even meant Minaza had no way to win. But after the evolution, the power of her will had reached its pinnacle. It also evolved her beloved blade, turning it into a god-class weapon you could call Gariki Mare Divine. Perhaps it would have been another story if Minaza's power was her own and not borrowed from the Emperor, but against Shion right now, there was nothing she could do. No. You're too strong. But my children will. Minaza only said this because she presumably couldn't see any longer. But her hopes were already dashed. Shion's chaotic fate had already slashed through every living thing in this arena. I certainly hope so. But Shion had nothing but words of mercy for her. How kind of you. But if you're that kind, you will never beat our insect lord. And Minaza's energy ran out there. With her life now a thing of the past, Shion had complete victory. Insect lord. That title dropped by Minaza held very important meaning. But Shion didn't seem to care too much. Well, I'm sure it's none of my business anyway. Showing an almost refreshing amount of detachment from the problem at hand, she didn't even try to remember it. So Minaza, an aggressor from another world, met the same pitiful end as her children. She had been trying to build a paradise for the insectors under the patronage of Emperor Lidor, but now she vanished from existence just before she achieved her ambition.